Yeah, I'll show you how to get it, but you have to be willing to do the work. The Syndicate, it's a motherfucking movement.
It's a syndicate.
You ain't gotta be perfect, long as you down to put the work in. If when it comes to the bullshit you allergic, well, you just might be my kind of person. Welcome to the Syndicate, where real estate wholesaling is what the business is. Ain't gotta talk about it when you out here living it. So if you out here getting it, then welcome to the Syndicate. Well, welcome to the Syndicate. Well, welcome to the Syndicate.
So, hey, what's up, guys? Very excited to have the guest with us today. We have Jeremy Beland coming to us from out of New Hampshire. Jeremy, thank you so much for joining us today, man.
My pleasure, my friend. Thank you for having me on your show. Great honor.
Yeah, of course, man. So for people who may not know who you are yet, do you want to give us a quick intro?
Yeah. So my name's Jeremy Beland. I'm up here in New Hampshire. My wife and I, we started our business back in 2017. Since we started our business back in 2017, we've gone on to do over 425 off-market acquisitions. Some of those wholesale flips, buying whole rentals and stuff for that nature. And we're actually starting to approach the 8-figure mark in gross profit, which is just mind-blowing to me. But we're a family-owned business. I run everything from my kitchen. My story to get here has been quite amazing, but I've been really blessed to work from home, have a ton of time freedom, and do real estate, which I really love to do.
I love that, man. Yeah, I think freedom is what it's all about. And I love the whole REI freedom, man. I think that's badass. So how did you get into it? You said it's kind of a crazy story.
Yeah. I'll try to summarize it up as quickly as possible. As a kid, I was born into basically a single mom who was homeless. Tough challenge right from the get-go in life, but hey, that's the way sometimes it happens. My mom eventually ended up getting married, and when I was a kid, my stepfather and us, we had like a small family and like smaller or lower middle class America type situation. Things were pretty good for me at that point. And then he ended up leaving a really good job to go start his own business. In the process, we ended up losing everything. I was about 13, 14 years old, where we ended up basically, our house was foreclosed, went to bankruptcy. The cars were all repoed in the middle of the night. It was like a crazy experience. It was very traumatic as a kid.
Yeah.
Although you don't really get what it's all about, but you just remember like waking up and all the cars are gone. And all of a sudden you have to leave. You have nowhere to go. There's no money, right? And it all happened so fast. Obviously, they went into their own issues as a result of that in survival mode. And I kind of fell into a life of just kind of like getting in trouble, quitting school, smoking pot, and getting into drinking and all those wonderful things you'd never want a child to do at a young age. Started just going down a path of self-destruction and depression. But somehow I kind of came out of it towards the end of my teens and found myself getting into health and fitness, which really kind of set me in a positive trajectory the rest of my life and to where I am today. Which allowed me as a high-rise window cleaner when I was about 23 years old, hanging off skyscrapers up in Boston, where you're a limb, so you remember those skyscrapers.
Yeah.
I was hanging off those things for $12 an hour. A friend of mine got me a sales job. He said, "Hey, I think you'd be great at sales." Never owned a tie in my life. Went to the job interview with my first purchase tie. Had to have my friend tie it for me, so I didn't look like an idiot. Ended up getting the sales job. Did pretty good with it. Then found myself like around 30 years old, married, had 2 little kids, had my own house, had new cars. I was like, oh my God, I made it, making 6 figures a year. This kid who came from nothing with no high school degree, no college education, found himself doing pretty well in sales. And then 2009 happened and it kicked my ass. And some of the people probably listening are probably too young to remember, but that wasn't only the recession back then wasn't just a housing crisis. It was also an employment crisis. And I went from having a 6-figure job, making really good money, having like $100,000 equity in my home, to a year later being unemployed, can't find work anywhere. My house is upside down now, $100,000, no loan modifications, no refinances. And I was in the brink of losing everything. And all of a sudden I'm like, shit. History repeats itself. I'm failing. I'm doing what my family did as a kid, and spiraled me into depression. But at that time, I was starting to learn about real estate investing, read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and cash flow quadrant, full cash flow quadrants. And then, I was starting to learn about wholesaling. It was called something different then, but bandit signs and acquiring properties. And I ended up doing a Donald Trump University weekend seminar. I learned about creative financing. So I was really into it then, but didn't have the ability to move forward because all of a sudden I had no money to pay my bills anymore. So I was in a situation where I had one option, and this was to join the Air Force at 33, going into 34 years old, right before the age cutoff. Because there, I could get an education because I couldn't afford to go back to college to learn network security. My thought process is, well, I need to find a way to get through the recession-proof business. Well, network security is going to be around forever. Go learn that education. I will come back. I'll sell that. So I wanted to do that. But in order to do that, I needed a top secret clearance. If I was going through foreclosure and bankruptcy, which I was on the brink of at that time, they weren't going to allow me in because they were afraid I was going to sell government secrets. Right. So in order to get this job to make $32,000 a year to provide for my family, because I couldn't find any work anywhere else. I mean, I was trying for months. I had to not go through foreclosure and bankruptcy. And that's when I called a real estate investor in my area, one who happens to be on my cash buyers list today. And he came out and said, hey, listen, we can short sale your house and I can prevent you from foreclosure. I can prevent you from bankruptcy. But, I have a lot of experience working with this mortgage company. They're really, really challenging, but I can get the job done. It was awesome. During that time, because you're not allowed to profit off of short sales, we had no money coming in. We ended up buying our washer and dryer for a few $100, buying our pool out back for a few $100, a shed out back for a few $100. And that money that was bringing me right before I left for the military was Christmas gifts for my kids, clothes to put on their backs. Right, I had a 3 and a 1-year-old, food to feed us. I was really desperate. I was rock bottom depressed. Went into the military from there. Left my family for 6 months. Came back out. Struggled for about a year or two trying to find employment after that. Finally found it. Got divorced. Then I found myself as approaching 40 years old. I'm wrapping up the story here, guys. Bear with me. It's almost ready. Done. I was approaching 40 years old, and I was a divorced dad of 2 kids living in the townhouse the next door to where my wife was, making 6 figures again, but just really, after going through that twice in my life, was really scared of what happens again, right? I'm 40. I'm not going to save enough for retirement through this W-2. What if the company sells? What if something happens? And during this time, I'm starting to see more and more people in their 40s and 50s climbing up the corporate ladder, that corporate ladder really becoming unstable, and people losing their jobs, high income earners losing their jobs overnight and not being able to be replacing that with anything else. And I was like, I don't want to do that. That scares me. Really started looking at real estate investing again at this point because I was traveling all over the country. Brought me to Wholesaling Inc., Mr. Tom Kroll. I started listening to that podcast, and for a whole year, I was like, man, I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. And I wanted to get into wholesaling because I thought, hey, I have no money. At least with wholesaling, you don't need to have money because I don't know how to flip houses with other people's money at that point. I don't know how to buy rentals with other people's money at that point. So I'm like, I'll just learn how to wholesale. But I had no money to join his coaching program. So I took a bold move and I sold my townhouse, which I only owned for 2 years. I made $17,000 in profit off of it. It was the only money I had to my name at that point. I took $6,000 paid off some credit card debt that I accrued, $5,000 to join the coaching program, $6,000 to start my business, which was the initial marketing plan, the LLC formation, the contracts with the real estate attorney, all that stuff. That $11,000 was what started my business. Now, I went and moved my kids into a tiny 2-bedroom apartment and not such a nice neighborhood. I basically burned the boats, and that $11,000 went on to generate like $70-something thousand that first year in 10 deals. But as I said today, brought me to a point where I've done over 425 deals. So that's kind of my story to where I've gotten today.
I love that, man. Thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, it's badass, man. I feel like most people, they get hit once or twice, and a lot of them stay down and don't get back up. But I mean, I think it's badass.
It's easy to stay down.
Kept moving, man. Yeah, it is, man. I mean, it's comfortable in here. It's easy to get comfortable and just say fuck it. But no, it's awesome, man.
Thanks.
So, what advice would you have for someone that's just starting out and maybe they're listening to podcasts like this or Wholesaling Inc. and they're kind of afraid to take that leap? What advice would you have for them?
Yeah, so I talk to people about this all the time. Really, there's a few things that I'm very passionate about and one of them is taking massive imperfect action. Analysis paralysis is definitely the detriment of all great things in real estate. I am probably the opposite to a fault, but I've seen so many people overthink themselves and not do things out of fear.
Mm.
In real estate, whether it's timing, the deal, the niche, the financial situation, it's never going to be perfect. As I like to say, there's no unicorns. They don't exist, right? So you have to just make it happen and then just, take massive perfect action, progress, not perfection, but just do it, knowing that it's okay to fail, it's okay to make mistakes, but you got to do it. And the other thing is, seems to be an unpopular position in today's day and age, but I'm a true believer in good coaching and mentorship. Like that $5,000 I spent with Wholesaling Inc. taught me how to do my first deal in 90 days. I got that $5,000 back in 90 days, and I went on to do $70,000 that year. Their coaching program wasn't designed to teach you how to rinse and repeat. It was how to do a wholesale deal. I had to invest in a lot of money on coaching since then to get to where I am today. But a lot of people, they want to do it for free. They think they can do it through YouTube, and God bless them if they can. But everybody successful that I've ever seen in this industry has had paid coaching and paid mentorship. But, you really need to combine the two of them. Invest into a great coaching program and then take massive and perfect action. I feel like you combine the two together, man, you can make amazing things happen.
100%. Yeah, I really definitely agree with that. I feel like there's like you said, a lot of people just want to try to do it on YouTube or free, but you don't really know what you don't know. And it's not really structured on YouTube. And there's like somebody could have one thing that's good and then could say something that's bullshit. You don't really know. And it's just not structured. So just being able to ask somebody like a specific question, like, and that knows your specific situation and that's already been through it. I mean, that's invaluable, man. There's no
you can't put a price on it. And it's funny you say that because I remember, going through my first time with the coaching program, and I thought I knew everything about wholesaling because I've been listening to it and reading books and everything else. But as we were going through the actionable steps of things that we needed to do, I remember at that time, this is 7 years ago, going, wow, I would have never guessed I had to do this. I never knew this. And I was like so much I thought I knew, but I just didn't know, right? And then put it into a situation where I could do it. And, the other thing is like when you're trying to just figure it out yourself, and as you've probably seen, so many people struggle for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months to get their first deal. That power of belief of getting your first deal is huge. It's even more valuable than the money you get with the commission. It's like, holy shit, I can actually do this. This works, right? But some people will never ever get to that because they're trying to figure it out on themselves when a coach or some kind of, program can teach you how to do it much sooner. And then you get that in 90 days. They're like, oh my God, I can do this. Let's do it again. It's just, you build so much momentum off of that.
100%. Yeah, I think my first deal I made like right under $1,200. It was like 1,100 and some change. And I'm like, I was frustrated, but like I had that proof of concept. I knew it worked, and like just getting that first one, like you said, is just it's a game changer. And then right after that, we made 60 grand off the next one. I'm like,
right.
I'm so happy I kept going, and I did that first one and didn't get discouraged.
Yeah, for sure. And and I can understand why people want to try to figure it out on their own and not want to spend the money. But, between, shorten the timeline, power of belief, I think there's a certain way that you need to conduct your business as a wholesaler in this country. And I think, I've seen way too many unprofessional people, not to say that, you have to present yourself, you have to act professionally. So for an example, yesterday on Facebook, one of these other investors, he's like, I've gotten the same deal sent to me by 6 different people today. I have no idea who even holds the contract, right? And that's kind of the mindset we're in today, where all these people are on daisy chaining off of large Facebook groups, and nobody really even knows who the contract is. I've had multiple conversations. I'm like, who's actually the contract holder? I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to that. I don't even know if I can execute on this, right? And, there's this, whereas where I was taught by a coach, we act with a different type of level of professionalism. We try to be professional to the seller, professional to the buyer, professional as a company. We provide value to the community, and we make good money doing it. But, I've never once daisy chained a deal in my life. I wouldn't even know how to go about doing that. But there they are everywhere. And that's what people think wholesaling is. But that's not wholesaling.
Yeah, I think there's people out there actually teaching people to do that. And it's just, it's a whole mess. I think I saw that same post. It's funny you said that. But it's crazy. We did one daisy chain. It was our deal, and then somebody had the buyer, found the other buyer. It ended up working out, but it was a pain in the ass, like dealing titles. Like, what the fuck's going on here? And I'm like, I don't know. It's one of our first ones.
3 different JV agreements going on. That's what's going on here.
Like this person gets this amount, they get that amount. I'm like, I don't.
But hey, if once in a while, that's understandable. Desperate times, desperate measures to get a deal done. But as a regular rule of practice, I can't imagine doing that on a regular. I mean,
No, yeah, it's
it's
not.
crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy. And yeah, just it's a new market. We didn't have buyers there, and like I said, yeah, sometimes you get desperate and
Yeah,
do
yeah,
what you got
yeah.
to do to get it to the finish line.
Personally, my feeling, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but my
No,
feeling as a wholesaler, like, your money, time, and effort should be focusing on getting contracts direct from the sellers.
mm,
Now, I'm all for building a huge buyers list and maximizing as much as you can out of buyers, but being on social media and saying, hey, I have 5 buyers, bring me your deals, I'll get them closed. That's great. But you should be spending your time and effort going to find deals because that's where
mm,
the real money's made.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest pet peeves I have is, people are told or taught or they think they need to go and I'm going to build this buyers list first and, call these people and like, see if they're real buyers but you don't have any deals. And, I hate getting those calls. And two, I first started tried to, this just makes no sense. I'm just wasting this guy's time. And
Yeah,
like I
exactly.
don't actually have a deal. So, but one day I might. So
One
remember
day
me.
I'm going to find somebody I can steal it from on Facebook or a daisy chain. They're going
Mhm.
to be like, I need a buyer in San Antonio. Oh, I'm the guy. I got 3 buyers. Come on, let's do the deal together.
Right. Yeah, it's too funny, man. It's yeah, definitely a lot of misinformation for sure. So it's tough. But awesome, man. So walk us through what's been the progression like? So the first year you went 7. How did you go from 7 to, do over 425 deals?
Yeah, I mean it's been a challenge, right? So I wish I could tell everybody that it's just all rainbows and sunshine and sprinkles, but it's hard work, and I still even this day and time, even with my success, we still have our ups and downs, just like any other business. Real estate's up and down, business is ups and down, entrepreneurship is up and down. There's a lot of gut check moments. We basically, fumbled our way through that first year. We got those 10 deals and 70,000 bucks. I put most of it right back in, started hiring coaching to learn some acquisition skills so I could get better at talking to sellers, which is something I'm very passionate about today. And this is kind of like what we run our coaching program on. But, that helped me start getting more deals. And then I needed to really learn how to start automating consistency with it. So, the first year we did 10 deals. The second year we did like 22, 23. Nothing great, small assignments. By the time I was in my third year, I found a way to start disrolling all of our properties legally on the MLS up here in the Northeast. That was a game changer. Went from averaging $20,000 a deal to $35,000 a deal overnight. Started to learn about private lending and private money. Started taking down flips. Started wholesaling, doing all that. Ended up hiring our first sales guy in 2019. We did like 35, and that was like the first year we did like $1 million up here. And we've done 7 figures ever since. And we just continue to grow. And then I tried, because it's always great to go virtual, right? It's super fun. I tried a
Mhm.
virtual market up in upstate New York after going there for a training, and some coaching training. And I was like, oh my God, Buffalo, New York is amazing. Distressed properties everywhere. We're going to go home and virtual market this. So I did with a business partner. And we're locking up deals for like $7,000. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And I couldn't even sell them for 6 because the market was completely different from where we are. We didn't know. So we had a high cancellation rate, fumbled our way through that. Eventually ended up hiring somebody out there who was a rock star and ended up building that into a 7-figure market as well. But I tried Las Vegas, failed there, had some moderate success in Wichita, Kansas for a year until we ended up losing our acquisition guy. And, and then eventually we ended up partnering up with Dan Toback about 2 years ago. We've been down in the Florida market now. So now we just focus on Florida. We focus on New Hampshire, Massachusetts. Both markets do about 40 deals, 45 deals a year. Anywhere from 80 to 100 total in volume. And yeah, that's kind of what we do. We wholesale, but we use the MLS a lot. We flip, we wholesale, try to keep the cherry pick the pipeline for the ones we want to keep.
Awesome, man. I love that. Now, when you put them on the MLS, are you doing novations or how are you getting them on the MLS up there?
So we're doing some novation. So, but we don't do a ton of it. I know that's a very trendy thing these days, and we do them every now and then. We don't really do novation as far as a business model. We do them kind of out of necessity. Like if we find that this is the only way we can make a deal work and exit out of it. So what we do is we've had all this vetted by the Real Estate Commission in all of our markets, and plus our attorneys to have it in our contracts and the way we have to list it. But basically what we do The gist of it is we have a property under contract that we are going to perform and close on. We are pre-marketing this property that we're going to buy in 3 weeks on the MLS to identify an immediate buyer on this property. So the idea is we're going to close on it in 3 weeks, and we're marketing to the buyer. We're going to close it on day one, right? To the next buyer. So we'll do that. And then we have what we do is like an open house inspection. So when we go to market our properties, we drive all of our traffic to a one-time showing to our house. We open it up for an hour, we host it, we ram about 20, 30, 40 people in there, more the better. And then everybody sends their highest and best offers the next day. And then what we try to do from there, depending on the type of property, is can we assign it rather than double closing? And if we do, we assign it. If we have to double close it, we will. A lot of the houses we do are actually kind of nicer houses, but we get them below market value that are like qualify for conventional financing. So we'll do a lot of those where we then have to do a novation and or a double close depending on the spread. We pay all the commissions and closing costs out of our end. And, but what happens for us is we get bigger spreads and we get more eyes on the property. And it allows us to not only get bigger spreads per deal, but allow us to move more deals rather than not be able to find some of the find buyers for some of the more challenging properties that may be tough to move, right? So, a flipper and a burr, investor is going to want something that has a lot of meat on its bone, but we can move properties that don't have a lot of meat on its bone and still make good money to a typical retail buyer. So we do a little bit of everything.
Nice. That's awesome. And what strategies are working best for you now? And has that changed over the years, like as far as, acquisitions and getting in front of potential sellers?
No, not at all. We're firm believers in the belly to belly approach. We nothing against virtual. We haven't had a lot of success with it. We feel like the cancellation rate's really high. We really like the belly to belly model where we're going out and meeting with sellers, providing great value to them and helping them out of tough situations. We feel like we could build more rapport that way. So we're focused on just going on a lot of appointments and then, getting the property under contract. Obviously, if we feel like it's a great deal, sometimes we don't even pre-market it. We just close on it with private lending and, clean it out and throw it on the MLS, a week after we close on it. We do a ton of those, and if it's a deal that we feel like we should pre-market, we'll pre-market it. We leverage the MLS on everything as much as possible. Sometimes the sellers don't want us to. And if they don't, then, we have a massive cash buyers list because we've been working on it for years. And, it's in the thousands and thousands and thousands. That kind of works. For us, it's all about, leveraging the MLS on the dispo side and private lending on the dispo side and really honing in our acquisition skills so we can take our leads and convert more deals. When I was really young in this business, I could take like 25 deals or 25 leads and do 1 or 2 deals, right? But as it got more competitive and we started hiring people, it was very common for some of our acquisition guys that do 40 leads to a deal, 50 leads to a deal, depending on where they were and what was going on. And then as we started to get them more coaching and everything, they started to get better rather than taking, which is pretty standard, I think, for most people that are relatively new in this business, taking those 50 leads and generated 1 deal for $5,000, $10,000. We focus so much on the acquisition skills these days and the sales skills that we could take those 50 leads and generate 2 to 3 deals out of the same 50 leads for not only, not $5,000 to $10,000, but like $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. So I can take those same 50 leads and because of the sales skills, make more deals happen. And then because of what I know on the dispo side, rather than making $5,000 to $10,000 because I don't have a few cash buyers, I can make those things much bigger spread. So the combination of the two have worked very well for us, and we continually try to get better at both ends.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. And are you guys doing like direct mail? Are you doing cold calling? What are you doing to generate leads?
So right now we just stopped cold calling in New Hampshire. We're doing TV ads, direct streaming TV ads. We're testing that out. We do mailing and we do PPC SEO. Down in Florida, mailing has been our bread and butter. We do some cold calling down there as well. Marketing has changed a lot in the last handful of years. We've pivoted quite a bit. We don't do texting anymore at all. That's really died. Cold calling, we've tested it and tried it a few times up here in the Northeast with very minimal success at best. But it works pretty well in Florida.
Yeah.
What I've realized in the different markets is they're not all created equal.
Right.
One marketing channel may do really well here and really, stink in another one and vice versa. So we just run everything by KPIs, give everything at least 90 days, if not 6 months, to evaluate, do we need to pivot? So for us right now, PPC has been pretty good. Mailing's been pretty good. SEO has been great for us, because we've been here a long time. And we're doing a lot of ringless voicemail right now, too.
Nice.
We decided to adopt that. We've always done it, but we adopt it way more now as opposed to texting because, listen, 2019 and 2020, I was making an 11-to-1 return on texting. I'm lucky if I can even get anybody to respond to a text these days.
Yeah. No, definitely a lot of changes with texting for sure.
Yeah.
But no, that's awesome, man. I appreciate you sharing. But yeah, no, I've gotten a bunch of great takeaways so far from this. What are some of the biggest mistakes you see new wholesalers make when they get in?
Biggest mistakes new wholesalers make. Well, I think we talked a little bit about it earlier. Not getting proper guidance would be one. Focusing on bringing buyers to the table more than trying to learn how to acquire properties off market direct to the seller.
Mm-hmm.
I think, the acquisition side is much more sustainable, scalable, and profitable than just focusing on the dispo side. And I think the mindset of that you can start this business with no money and be successful, I think that's really tough to do. I think there's few people that can. There's few. You can get on and start pull a cheap list and get on a phone and start hammering the phones for 3 to 4 hours a day and be a cold call and get deals. But the reality of that is it may take 3 to 4 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week for months, 1 month, 2 months, maybe even 3 months of doing that every single day before you get your first deal. 'Cause it's a numbers game, right? You have to go through. And most people will burn out and lose motivation before they ever get there. And with texting and all the new rules with that regulation, it's really hard to do that. So, I think we're coming into an age now that if you want to be a wholesaler, you can find ways to get things off Zillow, find things to get things off Facebook. But the reality is you need to start thinking that I'm going to need some marketing budget to be successful in this business. And I think most people think they can get a deal right away. The other thing I would say is when you're brand new, even with good coaching, taking massive action and a good marketing channel, you're likely probably going to not close on your first deal for 90 to 120 days because it takes time. It's a lot of momentum. You're going to get some low hanging fruit where people say, hey, I'm ready to sell my house right now. But the majority of what you do in the beginning and going forward is going to be nurturing and follow up. As they say, the money's in your CRM. Not the CRM you're spending all this time building, the CRM that you're calling to have a good follow-up process. So 80-20 rule applies here for you guys new that are listening. So that means for every 10 contracts you do, 8 of them are probably going to be ones that were follow-up or nurturing. So with that being said, it could take you many months to get to a process where they start to come to fruition and closing on a month-to-month basis. Yeah,
no, I think that's great advice for sure. Yeah, especially if you don't have any sales experience or marketing coming into it. Yeah, it's a whole new world. So yeah, I think having those reasonable expectations is huge because a lot of people watch TikTok or something and be like, oh, it's going to be real easy to get this deal, and then like, oh, why isn't it working? And it's like, it's just it's simple, but it's definitely not easy.
Yeah, and I'll say one other thing is that when it comes to that, and we talk about it a lot, is you want to be a deal finder, not a deal maker. So a lot of people aren't going to be a right fit for a wholesaler, and that's okay. Just move on until you find somebody who does. Don't be like, oh my God, I have somebody who says they want to sell me their house. I have to make this a deal. Maybe if I think about 17 different creative ways of making this deal happen from all the different ways I've heard about in real estate. No, get one niche, focus just on being keep it super simple wholesaler. And then if that deal doesn't work, throw them into your follow-up and move on.
Yeah, that's great advice for sure. Yeah, a lot of times people try to force it and it's just not there. And as much as you want it to be, it's not going to be there. And then, I think, I feel like I've been on the other side too. Like when I start to learn, when I've learned like new strategies and like creative finance and sub-2 innovations, I'm like, oh, there's so much money left on the table. But if I tried to learn it all in the beginning, I wouldn't have gotten anywhere.
Correct. Yeah. I always, like the one thing book by Gary Keller, just talks about just really getting one good at one thing. I even think like even as simple as marketing when you first come in as wholesale, like pick one marketing channel, get really good at that. Once you're really good at that, then add a second one, they get really good at that. I was just talking to one of our coaching students. He's like, well, what if I start doing like sub 2? Because right, like you mentioned, there's all these deals I may be leaving on the table, but I'm like, dude, you're not even close to dealing with that yet. You don't even know. Like, let's just get you good at where you're closing deals every single month, and then we can look at that down the road. Real estate's tough. I think you've probably been guilty of it. There's so many niches, so many shiny objects. It's hard to just keep focused on one thing, but the ones who are disciplined to do so tend to have way more success than the ones that don't, because you can be good at a lot of things and, the jack of all trades, but be the master of none.
Yeah, 100%. No, I think it's a struggle for almost everyone I talk to, and just you have to not do it. Just know. So I feel like
myself included.
Yeah, I feel like you burn your hands enough time touching the stove, you learn, hey, I should focus on the one thing.
Great analogy.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So what are so you touched on something really interesting before, saying how different it is, in different markets. I know for me, I hate talking to people in New York. I hate talking to people in Northeast on the phone doing cold calls. Like they just real short to the point, and they just they don't want to fuck around. Like, but down south they'll talk to you all day. And
I love the Southern people. They're so nice.
Yeah, completely different. But what are some of the other differences you've noticed in different markets?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's obviously just, the hard thing about virtual is like you may think a market, but you don't, right? So up here in the Northeast, like where we are, the average resale home value is about $430,000, right? When we're out in Buffalo and stuff, we were getting houses, like I said, for like $7,000, $12,000. We thought we had a great deal, right? Oh my God, I can't even buy a used car up here in the Northeast for this, right? But they really had no value because you could actually people could give you land for free or a vacant house for free, but the renovations cost to fix up that house would mean that it would end up being worth less than what less than what you have in it for more, the value you have in it. So if it costs you $60,000 to renovate that free property, you could only sell it for $50,000. So that was a huge learning curve. And one of my mentors and old coaches, Todd Toback, he talked about a lot of people. The virtual model is very sexy, and it's like, and not just a virtual model. This is before the virtual model. I am kicking ass in my own market. I need to go and do this in another market. That's what I thought. I am kicking ass in here. But the reality is, like the one thing we were just talking about, I didn't squeeze all the juice out of that lemon in my local market. I could have spent more money, more time, more effort, making more money out of my market rather than taking all that time, energy, and resources to try to feel through a new market. So, it was really, really tough for that adjustment. But, the houses are different. The people are different. The marketing channels are different. Like you're basically starting from scratch. You have to start all over. So, it can be really challenging.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And yet I love the one thing. I think it's a great book. And some of the other books you mentioned too by Kiyosaki, those are just some of the first ones I read as well. Are there any other books or anything you'd recommend for people that have kind of helped you along the way?
You can't see it because of my screen here. I don't know if this will show, but it won't show.
No.
But this is one of my favorite books. I got a handful. I'm an avid reader. Tom Kroll, when I signed up for wholesaling, he said to start reading. I started reading. I've been reading ever since. And I feel like a lot of my personal development, self-development has come from reading, and I read every morning like clockwork. But this book is called Equity Habits. It's by Robert Helms and Russell Gray. They're the guys who do the radio show podcast. They've been around a long, long, long time. This book is hard to find. I actually paid $90 for it on freaking Amazon. It was crazy. It's the most expensive book I've ever bought in my life. But it's awesome. And it just talks about the power of equity in real estate. It talks about like how owning real estate, nationally, obviously some local markets vary, right? The Midwest, maybe not as much as like the Seacoast areas, but in average over like the last 50 years, housing has gone up, appreciated almost 8% year after year after year. So if you think about where else can you get an 8% or more return on your investment, it's really hard pressed to find anything other than real estate. And even with the dips and, recessions, real estate continues to just appreciate. So it just talks about the long-term gains of just, buying and holding, buying a property and sitting on it for 20 years, buying a property and sitting on it for 30 years. How many times can you do that? And, as time goes by, I'm years old now, I think, approaching 50. I think about, man, what would have happened if I bought properties 10, 15 years ago, and how much would they be worth now? So I love that book on that aspect.
Awesome, man. I haven't heard of that one. I'll definitely pick that up.
It's a rare
Yeah.
one. It's a good one. It's a really good. Those guys are amazing.
Nice. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out, man. I appreciate that. So, man, yeah, this has been great, man. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, man. So what's the best way for people to connect with you or follow you on social or the podcast or all that?
Yeah. I got a whole bunch of social handles right now, but the best thing to just keep it super easy, join our REI Freedom Facebook group. We it's a different Facebook group. We're not about posting properties on there, looking for cash buyers. This is a place where we really try to provide value and training people to get better. So if you want to come to a place and be around surrounded great people like the people on this podcast and other guests on this podcast and learn how to get better at acquisitions and dispositions and learn all the skills and then also provide your experience shares with other people that can learn from you, that's where we do it at REI Freedom. Because at the end of the day, we're just wanting to build a life of freedom through real estate investing. However that looks for you. For me, it's time. For everybody else, it could be different. But if you can meet us there at the REI Freedom Facebook group, come talk to me. I'll answer any question you have.
Awesome, man. That's great. Yeah, I'll make sure to drop that link in the show notes and on the summary for people on YouTube. And this is great, man. I'll have to do this again.
I can't wait. I appreciate it very much.
Hey, this is Ky Logue. Thank you for listening to the podcast. I truly appreciate you. If you want more of this information and you want to see these actually recorded live, go ahead, join our Facebook group. It's the Real Estate Wholesaling Syndicate. It's right on Facebook. Google it, you'll find it. Type it on Facebook, you'll find it. I look forward to seeing you guys in there. We give a ton of free information in there, a bunch of free trainings, free courses. You get all the scripts, contracts, everything you need, A to Z, absolutely free. And I look forward to seeing you on the group.